Hello, welcome to Gathering Momentum for Your Life. I'm Christine Casten, and today we're going to talk about pivot points. And I know you may be wondering, what are pivot points? Okay, well, here's what they are. When you hit a wall in your life and you have to figure out, how do I handle this? Do I have to pivot to the left or the right? Do I have to step back? Do I need to turn around and go? Do I need to figure out a way over it, under it, through it, whatever? And you hit that point in your life, and all of us hit them. And and in that moment, we have to make a decision. We make a choice, but it's not always the first choice that we should make. Sometimes the choice we make is to make an assumption, and a lot of times when we move out of assumption, we're removing our relationship with God from the whole picture, right? Because we're just assuming we know what it is and which direction we need to go. But before we talk a little bit more about that, it would be good if I could talk today, right? Anyway, before we talk a little bit more about that, what I'd like to do is talk about the different kinds of walls that we may hit. So the obvious one is walls of the enemy. Yeah, he's trying to keep us from our direction, where we're going. He's wanting to cause us to stumble. He's wanting to constrain us, to keep us from moving forward. And there are lots of ways that may happen in our lives. It may be negative self-talk. It may be people. It may be through situations. It may be where our expectations haven't been met. And so then we move into negativity and just, frustration. There's another kind of wall, and that wall is the wall of God. And the walls of God are meant to keep us from going in a wrong direction, right? They're good for us, right? They're a wall that is put in our path as a stopping point, saying, don't keep going this direction. There's another direction that's better. There's another direction that's more in line and in tune with what God has for us in his heart, for us, for our growth, for our development, for carrying his glory to the ends of the earth, for what that looks like, for the preparation necessary for that, or for the implementation of what that looks like in our lives. And so he's actually inserting himself in our path, in between where we're heading, to say, don't go that way. And sometimes he may just put the wall up temporarily because he's just asking us to slow down a bit. Some of us love to run ahead, right? We love to say, this is the direction, we're going to go for it. And that's great, because we want to have passion for what God has for us. But sometimes we're moving so fast, we're not putting in place the things that are necessary for the journey. Now, that may be internal things, that may be external things. God may be bringing a team into our lives, maybe bringing people into our lives, wise counsel into our lives, and we're just kind of a little ahead of the curve before that, divine convergence point can happen. So sometimes he's just saying, whoa, slow down. I'm going to put this wall here. I'm going to hold you just for a little bit longer. Other times the walls are able to stay there because they're a way for us to build our strength, to build our patience, to actually encourage our relationship with God, so that we aren't operating in assumptions, so that we're operating with him in all that we do. Now, there are also just walls of life that happen, things that happen in life where you have to pivot. And I think about My husband has a role in business, and there are times when they're going forward with a strategy and they realize, hey, we need to tweak this a little bit, or there were some factors that we weren't able to anticipate. And so we've got to adjust what we're doing. Or it may just be constraints, within the company itself, and say, hey, we would love to go spend $1 bazillion on a marketing campaign doing this, but $1 billion isn't needing to be directed in that way. So you have to pivot. And in that place of pivot, so many of us will pivot into an assumption of, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she and I were just having a great discussion. And one of the things she said was, sometimes it's hard because people hit a wall and they just say, well, God doesn't want me to go that way, so I'm just going to go this way. But they never actually ask him, like they never actually check out with God what might be on his heart. And so today's verses that I felt like really were great discussion points for today, and just great affirmation of God's heart for us, come from Psalm 34, and it's verse 15 and verses 17 through 19. It says, in 15, it says, the eyes of the Lord are toward the uncompromisingly righteous. Uncompromisingly is in parentheses. And this is, I believe, the Amplified version. But anyway, so let me read it again. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry. Okay, so this is a promise. His eyes are toward us, right? We know that he's here. He's omnipresent, and he's always here with us, and his ears are open to our cry. And so when we move to 17, it says, when the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of their distress and troubles. We'll talk about that in a second. In 18, it says, the Lord is close to those who are of a broken heart, and saves such as are crushed with sorrow for sin and are humbly and thoroughly penitent. Humbly and thoroughly penitent. Many evils confront the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. Now, with these verses, it's easy to make an assumption that God's just going to remove the walls. He's going to blow through them, and he's going to say, go ahead. I've got this with you. Let's do it. I'm going to go before you, and you just follow behind. Right. But that's not really what he's saying. He's saying he's here with us, right? He's here in our sorrows. He's here in the brokenheartedness. And he through our humility and through our true penitence, in other words, we really are sorry for what we did. Like, there's a true heart sadness for, wow, I am not operating in a place that is aligned with God's heart. I'm not representing him well. I'm not knowing him well. So there's a place in this pivot point where, if we recognize where God is in it, there's a strategy, there's a comfort, there's a healing, there's an opportunity for direction, there's a wisdom as to what type of wall it is. Is it a wall of the enemy? Is it a wall of the Lord? Is it a wall of just natural things going on in the earth? And in that place, we can actually lean in to him before we pivot, right? So part of what this encourages us to do is to have a relationship that we're always fostering with God, because if we're in a moment of crisis, we're going to be stirred up, right? Our emotions might be haywire, our frustration, our hurt, all of that can get in the way of us being able to actually recognize what God is speaking into our hearts and our lives. And in that place, we can lose hope. We can lose sight, right? We can lose sight of the fact that God is fulfilling his promises, that he will deliver us out of our distress. Now, what that looks like may not be what we expect. It may not be what we want. It may be different because we may not understand the end from the beginning as he can see it. So there's also a trust in him that is part of that process. Leaning in on him to say, what action do I take in this space Do I pivot to the right? Do I pivot to the left? Do I step back and pivot and go the other direction? Do I lean forward and find that sledgehammer that he has over there to break through that wall and just to go ahead and crush it? Or is he going to crush the wall? And sometimes I think we miss some of the amazing miracles of God because we decide to take something on ourselves, operating out of assumption instead of waiting for him to say, this is your pivot point. This is how the best pivot, this is what the best pivot is for you to actually go in the direction that's needed, for you to actually recognize what I'm doing in this moment, how I'm moving, and how I want you to move with me, right? So much of our journey in Christ is actually learning how to do life with him instead of for him or in spite of him or without him, or this idea of a distant connection. But when we're truly living in a lifestyle of penitence and humility, but also a lifestyle of pressing in to him, to his heart, there's something that opens up in that place that does allow us to understand which way do we pivot. One of the things that I absolutely love is in the moment of the wall, it's so easy to sit there and stare at the wall and to say, oh, this is a wall, this is a terrible wall, this wall is awful, it's stopping me from where I'm going, I don't know what to do because there's a wall here, oh, the wall. But there's a moment when we can make a choice and say, oh, look, there's a wall here. Okay, Jesus, I'm going to look straight in your face. I'm going to look straight in your eyes, and I'm going to lean in and press into you. And I'm going to say, okay, Jesus, what do I need to do? What is this next step? What is this place of learning that I have in this moment? What is this wall actually about? What's the source of the wall? These are all good questions, by the way. You can rewind it and listen again if you want to write them down. But anyway, what is the source of the wall? What is this wall here to help me determine in this moment? Is this a wall of breakthrough where I'm about to press in past something that has held me back in my mindsets and the way I think about things and the way I speak about things and the way I look at life? Or is this a wall that is here to protect me from a direction that I don't need to go? Or is this a wall where the enemy's trying to stop me? And, in that place, you can lean into him and you can grab hold of the wisdom of the ages and understand what he would like to release, into your life. And then together you're able to pivot with him. And I think that just taking that instant, sometimes he'll give you direction immediately. Wait, okay, Lord, what is this? I'm going to look in the face of Jesus. What is this? And he'll just in his loving way go, don't worry about it. I'm taking care of it. Or in his loving way, he'll say, okay, this is about you learning something here. This is about a place of strength or authority I want to take you into. I want you to understand your authority. So this is how you step into that. Or he might say, yeah, this is a barrier to the direction you're going because it's not the best direction. I have a different direction that's actually going to be more effective and efficient and or better, for whatever reason, better for kingdom and for carrying his glory to the ends of the earth than what this direction would be. And so I just want to encourage you, when you hit that wall, take a moment, go back into your relationship with God. Foster that relationship along the journey so that it's easy to do that and continue to step into his presence. Turn your eyes away from the wall and put them on him. And then ask for his leading and his direction. And in that place, you'll learn more about what it is to be fully him and fully you together on a journey. You'll learn what trust is of God instead of trying to make things happen or strive to break through. And the breakthroughs become very different. They still require a pressing in. They still require choices that we make toward his best for us. And yet there's a trust and a faith and a hope that's built in him to help you through that process in a way that isn't about a crutch. It's about a coming into what it is to be a son and a daughter of God. So I look forward to your posts, your comments, your thoughts. Please share those. I look forward to seeing you next week at 11 o'clock Eastern Time for Gathering Momentum for Your Life, our weekly journey into the amazing life that we have with God. I'll leave you with this video so that you can take some time to think through some of the things we talked about, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.